I'd like to discuss GB Energy today, or the Great British Energy Company that's been set up by the government, the current Labour government. Have a look at some of the reasons why it's a bad idea in my opinion, and generally just discuss, should we have companies of this nature in our economy? Now, first off, I will make the statement here that I am a capitalist in its purest sense. The reason why I believe in capitalism is because it's the best system that we have at the moment. It's not perfect. It has massive problems associated with it. It creates wealth inequalities. It creates poverty. And I understand all those arguments. But there's no other system that works, or none that anybody appears to be inventing at the moment. No economic system that appears to work better. Certainly if you look at capitalism versus socialism argument, if you look at the 20th century, you can't really advocate for socialism. You just have to look at China and Mao. You just have to look at Russia with Stalin, and deaths on a gigantic scale. Death unknown. Pol Pot in Cambodia. The list is quite extensive. If anybody were to point out to me a place where socialism has worked, then I'd be happy to look at that in a future video. But to my mind, capitalism is the best system that we have at the moment. Now we move on to Great British Energy and what that is. Essentially what it is government interference in the private sector. Now I'm quite open, even though I am a capitalist and I believe in business and I believe in the system we have. I believe that business should be taxed in order to pay for public services. I believe in a smaller state and all of those things. I'm not averse to considering whether some critical infrastructure should be dealt with by the government. So as an example, let's look at energy. Is there an argument to say that energy companies should be removed and we shouldn't be making profit from a system that everybody in the country needs to run? Yeah, there's certainly an argument for that. You could also apply that same argument to water, so that water is a critical infrastructure. So, I'd be open to saying water and energy, and we could even go farther than that. We could even look at public transportation perhaps. There are a number of areas where it could well be argued that nationalisation is a better way to deal with it. It could definitely be argued, without any doubt. That said, this isn't what GB Energy is. Rishi Sunak recently called it state interference in the energy sector, whilst Keir Starmer calls it the future of Britain's energy security. To my mind, this is just a gigantic white elephant. It's not going to do anything, and it's just essentially a money pit. It's a disaster waiting to happen. This company is going to be using over £8 billion of the British people's money. I'm not really sure what this company is all about, and it would appear that neither is the gentleman that's running it.
Is that by having more homegrown clean energy here, we're going to protect from global events suddenly creating a panic where people have to pay higher bills, and we're protecting people from that. And ultimately, yes, it will help bring energy prices down.
When?
Well, it's a matter for government and policy to decide.
But as the boss of this, and as someone who is driving forward the ambition of the government, you surely have an idea in your head of when that central pledge to the people of reducing their bills by £300 will come into action.
It is not in the remit of Great British Energy to work out exactly how that energy costing gets through to the consumer. That's
what consumers were pledged, though, wasn't it?
Well, no, look, consumers were pledged that Great British Energy is going to help bring those energy prices down, and we will.
Still don't know when, though.
No, I'm giving you an answer. More renewable energy is bringing people's energy bills down. It's a great thing for British people. It's creating jobs for British people, and that is the best way of doing it.
Can you see why people think this is a bit vague?
Well, look, at the end of the day, I know that you're asking me for a date as to when I can bring that. Great British Energy has only just been brought into creation.
Can we be clear as to how many jobs the northeast of Scotland will benefit from?
Great British Energy itself is going to create, over the next 5 years, 200 or 300 jobs in Aberdeen. That will be the size of our team. But look, that is...
They were promised 1,000.
Look, and I said, in the very long term, as we become a major energy champion, it may be many more than that.
What's the very long term?
Well, look, we grow these companies. Energy companies grow over 10, 20...
So I don't know how you felt about that. For me, that was a particularly uninspiring interview. To me, he had the look of a man who was trying to justify future promises. In investing terms, these are called story stocks, where there's a promise in future of something. What will happen in the future, this is going to happen, and this is why this is a fabulous thing. So don't worry about it. The 8 billion that I'm spending, or the 8.3 billion of your money that it's going to cost to set this up, it's all going to pay dividends. Definitely within the future. Could be 5, could be 10, could be 20 years, who knows. But please understand me that this is really going to be a good use of your money, and we're going to look after you. And it's a story we've heard many times before. So a few points here. Point 1, government can't run businesses. I've said many times in the past that what government has to do is stay out of the way of business. That's what business needs. It just needs reduced taxes. Another point that I would make is that what you have to do if you want to push forward this green agenda, and everyone likes a clean environment, everyone likes nice water and clean air, and everyone likes low energy prices, and no one wants to destroy the planet. But the way to do it is to allow private industry to make inventions, and then what you do is you allow that to come into the public consciousness, and if indeed it is lower, then everyone will jump on board. But when you're looking at government programs, they're a slightly different kettle of fish, because they have to be pushed onto the public, and so in order to do that, they cost money, and they require large amounts of government money in order to move this project along. Now, who's going to pick up the cost? Well, the public. This is going to cost £8.3 billion of our money. And what about when it loses money? So what about when they've spent the £8.3 billion? Where are they going to get the additional money to keep it afloat? France has a state energy company, and it's needed billions and billions of pounds in taxpayer bailouts. And it continually needs that because the state can't manage private enterprise. France's state energy, and you can look this up yourself, has actually led energy shortages. They've tried to experiment with things like price caps, that's gone wrong. And essentially it's led to shortages. So in addition to it costing the taxpayer billions and billions of euros in France, this has also led to shortages in energy around the country, and in some instances blackouts. So this is the model that Labour's selling us here. Private companies do it better than government. You need to bring big players on board, people like BP, Shell, Octopus, all of these big players. And what you need to do is you need to encourage them to make moves in the market. And if it's within their interest to do so, then they'll do it. And that's how the world works. It doesn't work with rainbows and unicorns and wanting everything to be better just because you wish it to be so. This is how the world works. Government can't run private enterprise. It's been tried 1,000,000 times, and it's also failed precisely the same amount of times it's been tried. It's not built to manage private enterprise. They are two separate things. There's the public and there's the private. And that's it. And never the twain shall meet. Business can't run the country, and the country can't run business. And what is the big promise here? Well, Labour's big promise is cheaper bills. But everyone knows that that's not going to happen. The energy price cap's about to go up again. by another 6%, I think I saw in the news this morning. And this is obviously not going to work. And it's annoying from the perspective of we're being told and we're being sold this, and it's obviously a waste of £8 billion. So how much did the winter fuel cost? What about the national insurance increase that's currently going to be destroying business in the latter part of this year? It's already started to do it, but it's going to continue and it's going to increase. That was due to make $25 billion by 2030. Yet the government are spending $8 billion here. So almost a third of the money that they're going to be making by destroying business and reducing the amount of tax take that they bring home, increasing borrowing costs, reducing growth, all of these things. This is just another waste of $8.3 billion. Forgetting about the billions that they're going to waste on some Chagos Island silliness that's going on. It's just more money for nothing. And it's a terrible waste of public money. Now, I'll leave you with this. If you look at this picture, there's a number of people on this picture. So who are these people? We've got Juergen Maier, the gentleman that was in the video. He's the chairman. And he's the former CEO of Siemens UK. So he does have a bit of experience at board level. We've got Frank Mitchell, non-executive director, former CEO of SP Energy Networks. We've got Kate Gilmartin, again CEO of British Hydropower Association. We've got a doctor, Nina Skorupska, I believe that's how you say it, former CEO of the Association for Renewable Energy and Clean Technology. And we've got Valerie Todd, Director of People and Operations at Siemens UK. So it appears like Valerie has followed Juergen. You must like Valerie, and that does happen sometimes with CEOs. They do tend to take good people with them, no problem with that. Now, the original Chief Executive Officer's position is a base salary of £350,000 a year, and there's been speculation in the media over the last few weeks that that's going to go a little bit higher. Now, it is worth noting that typically these non-executive directors, people in this picture, do receive compensation for their roles, but exact figures aren't really pushed out into the public, and this is harder to find. The one thing that I would point out on this picture is if you look to the very right, there's a lady on there called Frances O'Grady, and she's the former General Secretary of the Trade Union Congress. And she, if you remember, she was on the television during the time of Brexit, around that time, and she was on television 10 times a week. And she was a very, very harsh Remainer. She worked, as I said, for the Trade Union Congress. And to my mind, this lady knows absolutely nothing whatsoever about energy. I may be wrong about that, but this is jobs for the boys. And I think she sneaked in on the very edge there, as if to just come in under the radar. But Frances O'Grady there has got a nice little number going, I believe. I would imagine all of these people are going to be on a 6-figure salary. So that's probably a thank you from the deep state there, who thanked Frances for her time in the trade unions. And of course, these people that run these organisations, they always end up with nice salaries at the end. Because it's only fair. It's only right. But I just thought it was interesting to take a look at these people, these non-executive directors. They have worked on boards, so they understand the board of places, they understand how to have meetings, they understand the media game. So these are the people that have to do it, and they have to be placed there because that's what they have to do. And the staff is going to be increasing up to 250 to 1,000 eventually, something like that. But the question that I have, which hasn't been able to be answered, certainly not in the interviews that Mr. Maier is conducted, is exactly how the Great British Energy, GB Energy Company, is going to influence anything in the private market. What's it going to do? And it's just one of those things where it's opaque. Nobody can really see what's going on. And when the CEO, an experienced CEO like Juergen Maier, an intelligent man, he knows things, and he can certainly, he's bold enough to stand in front of the media and go through this. When questioned, with really, really straightforward questions from the reporter there, he was unable to answer anything in concrete terms. And the very fact that this company's been promised $8 billion and this has been sold to the public, I just think this is a little bit of a joke. Although £8 billion isn't very funny, considering the winter fuel payments were a lot less than that. But really, this is going to fail spectacularly. And it's just going to be a tremendous waste of our money, while we need to be putting that money elsewhere to be helping people, having better public services. That 8 billion could have helped business, could have helped people in the community. But what do? They just squander this stuff. And this is what governments do. They're very, very fast and loose with people's money. You know, we can only hope that in the future, a future government would just cut the funding off for this pile of complete garbage. Thanks very much for your time.